Unfortunately, I wanted to leave the state of Florida after the season finale of Disney Fighting Evolution. But we're going 9 miles south to the Viacom Alignment storyline, Universal Disaster. Unlike DFE, which focused on an ensemble cast, Universal Disaster prioritizes on a recurring plot device. Literally. But much like DFE, UD has different parts and series in the storyline. For the original series, the 5 installments are divided up into 2 halves, including a side story in the former. For this video, I will be looking at the Skynet Duology. And as I mentioned before in previous videos, early Shareverse storylines usually was an amalgamation of stuff that I was exposed to at that point in time. So let's just dive into the first installment of Universal Disaster. Surely what was on my mind in 2009 wouldn't be that crazy. The storyline starts off with myself OC going to a Broadway performance of Shrek the Musical in 2009. You know, the more I think about this show and seeing 3 different productions of it, the more I feel like the musical doesn't get the source material. Shrek is supposed to be a parody of Disney tropes before it became meta. Having a musical where the characters burst out into songs kind of defeats the purpose.
Man, that was annoying.
Also, no All-Star. That is a sin against humanity. Anyway, he went there to see the show because he was planning to meet up with Todd. Now, Wayside in Shareverse is a bit weird. There was a 30-story building that was a school in the 1970s, but all of the characters' quirks were mostly close to the 2007 series. When Louis Sketcher wrote the books, adapting key events and students, he decided to rewrite a lot of their traits, resulting in that continuity being placed in an alternate timeline. But with the recent release of the show, the former students got a slight bump in the limelight. By 2007, Todd was pretty much not entirely close to any of his close associates from the past. They were planning to set up a meeting to discuss a future parody series, which I am not going to get into here because it is a Star Wars parody. I am not going to get my hands dirty with that right now. However, this meeting would be interrupted by a minor attack. Remember how I said in Smash Lesbians that the creator and owner of Skynet was a secret, and I used an image of a chunky rat as a placeholder.
You want the fucking truth? There is no fridge! I lied!
Wait, no.
In the 1950s, American scientists used rats to test the limits of robotics and artificial intelligence during the Cold War. One of these subjects was Sammy, who had a robotic endoskeleton internally. However, the skeleton not only refused to activate, but the rat died in the process. The scientists disposed of the rat in the gutter, which stayed there for 20 years, not decomposing at all. By the 1970s, a lunch lady for the Wayside School found it and adopted it to becoming her pet, calling him Sammy. Things would stay like this until one night where Sammy was left in the school's kitchen. Just so happened a lightning storm struck the building, causing an electrical overflow. Through that, Sammy's sentient brain became active. He began to believe that humans betrayed him over his sad state and that their own creations should be their ultimate demise. Through his intelligent mind and hindsight bias, Sammy began to hack into the school's banking system and invest that money into up-and-coming technological companies. He began to create companies such as Cyberdyne as a front to his main creation Skynet. Not only that, but quantum physics became a point of interest as well, seeing timelines where he launches a nuclear holocaust and eradicates the human race using robotic skeletons. Of course, a dead rat running a military company sounds completely ridiculous. That's why he hired humans to do his dirty work as decoy companies, Cyberdyne included, and kept his identity a secret to the public. Which brings up the fact he was so casual to greet Todd and AJ in Manhattan all the more suspicious. Something had to be up. He told him that something big was coming to Universal, and he would be honored to see both of them there later that week. They scheduled a 2-day trip to Orlando, but not without backup, one of which being Peter Parker, who was still AJ's on and off again Astro Soul guardian angel, and Sari Sumdeck, whose entertainment property Transformers had ties to the Viacom Alignment. But because this was February of 2009, and Transformers Animated Season 3 wasn't out yet, Sari was still in her child's body, who had repulsor cannons for hands. When they got to the front pillar in the park, they immediately knew something was off. There stood an unusual machine that Sammy stood by. He called it the Time Hole, a machine that could rip into other timelines and create true terror. Even if Judgment Day failed in this timeline, he could use his technology from other timelines to suit his goal. And the 4 of them were his guinea pigs. They were all sent to a different time period in a different timeline. What's interesting is that the time periods that they all went to were based off of rides in Universal Orlando. So one instance they could be set in the Future War lifted from T2 3D, the next they could be thrown into the Jurassic period. Not only that, but Sammy sent somebody to hunt them down throughout the adventure, and it wasn't no Terminator. At one point the group encountered a warrior from the medieval setting that attacked them. While fighting, it was revealed to be an alternate timeline version of Fiona. So it turns out that in Shrek Forever After from 2010, Rumpelstiltskin sends Shrek into a timeline where he wasn't born into, rather than creating a new one on the spot, meaning this Fiona never experienced true love. I made this decision when rewriting the storyline because I thought it would be interesting to see this version of Fiona in her human form since we never saw it in the film. She was bribed by Sammy to hunt down the Four as a way to free her people from Rumpelstiltskin. However, after getting more information about her client, she began to help the group out, albeit towards the end of their journey. Not really much to talk about the actual adventure, since Universal Disaster is mostly a character-focused storyline, as shown in the ending. When Todd confronts Sammy again, he sends everybody back to their time periods, congratulating them for being perfect subjects to his studies. But then he reveals that Mauricia is mind-controlled, loyal to Skynet. When Sammy was researching about alternate timelines, he noticed that Mauricia was extremely different. In this timeline, she's a roller skating tomboy who punches people to show her affection, whereas in the alternate timeline, she was a girl that likes ice cream. He also finds out that in that timeline, he is a sentient dead rat that dies when his multiple layers of clothing are removed. The 70s were full of drugs. I think that's pretty obvious. This would lead into Sammy's ultimate plan: create Skynet in the book timeline sooner, launch Judgment Day there, and bring most of what he has there into the main timeline. But until then, he needed more research. He left as soon as he showed up. With nothing to do but to wait, the Four disbanded, theorizing on some ways to free Mauricia from Sammy's grasp until then. Todd was furious because him and Mauricia did have a thing in school. What's interesting is that this installment happens on February 11th, 2009. Only a few days later, Peter would get his ass beat by another green woman. Poor guy couldn't catch a break. There is a side story that takes place in between Universal Disaster 1 and 2, but I'll save that for next time. Throughout 2009 and the early months of 2010, AJ began dreading the next time Sammy would arise, or secretly launch Judgment Day without warning. He began to prepare as much as he could for a counterattack, recruiting a team of outsiders to inspect the time hole whenever him and the others are sent to Universal again. And what better person to combat Skynet than the guy who was literally born for the job? Susan was also there too. That's Ginormica from Monsters vs. Aliens. When I was 9, I had a crush on her. No, I don't have a giantess fetish. I'm still unsure what I want to do with this character in Shareverse, but I still want to include her in Universal Disaster 2 on lookout duties with Connor. Another major addition was with Sari. She got an upgrade, and I will never forgive the fact that she was mostly benched throughout all of Season 3. Yeah, Transformers is about Autobots fighting Decepticons, but there is no need not to include a human that helps fight the Decepticons too. Or Autobot. Android. Cyborg? We still don't know what the hell Sari is. Anyway, the call we were all waiting for came in May of 2010. Once again, the four travelers of time entered the time hole, though this time on a rescue mission. The biggest addition to Universal in 2010 was the Wizarding Worlds expansion located at Islands of Adventure, so that meant Hogwarts was another location during the adventure. But other than that, it was pretty much the same adventure as last year, with the hunter being Mauricia instead. In fact, her and Sari had a roller skate battle. Unbeknownst to Sammy, the group was able to free Mauricia from her mind control in the Future War time period. When he heard the news, Sammy got furious, unleashing his ultimate weapon, the T-1000, a liquid alloy spider machine that he pilots. The fight swept the entire battlefield, but through the outside spectators, they were able to pull the group and Sammy into the main timeline. With everybody's combined help, both the machine and Sammy were terminated. Get it? Because he created the Terminators, so it's natural that he would be terminated by his own doing. I'm fucking done with this. I fucking hate Terminator fans. That's not important right now. Everybody decided to celebrate this victory over at the Hard Rock Cafe, because that's what you do if you want to hear some epilogues. Todd and Mauricia finally got together again, being comfortable with speaking to the other alumni from Wayside, Susan was signed up for a Nickelodeon show that would be no way destructive of the franchise. Expect a video on that sometime soon. But John didn't get his happy ending yet. He told AJ outside of the restaurant that Sammy was going to be revived once his sentence was over and things would be back to square one with them. But through this shallow victory, he has some hope that Sammy could be defeated permanently. This would be the last time I would see John for the next 5 years. Within that time period, I'm pretty sure he got to do nice things. He definitely did not get kidnapped by Skynet, became a Terminator hybrid, and became the strongest one the company created. Did I mention I like Genesis? Speaking of, in Hell's Prison, Sammy spent his sentence in his cellar just thinking, planning on future projects once released. Mauricio, when she was mind-controlled, was fast, agile, but more importantly human, traits all of his machinery failed to achieve. He began to hypothesize about a Terminator model that could achieve both the best features of man and machine, as well as its first and only inheritor. And that was the Skynet Duology, the first 2 installments of the Universal Disaster storyline, as well as what to expect moving forward. Character-driven motives, interactions between time periods based on the park, and rules and regulations of the time hole. Next video will be the aforementioned side story, but after that, that would be the remaining installments of Universal Disaster in a trilogy. Subscribe to check that out, and share a like if you liked the video. Until then, I'm AJ, and I'll see you all in the next one.